So we need to just make sure that we're only logged on at one time.
Morning.
JP. All right,
Can
I'm
everyone
muting
hear me
the
all right?
interpreter.
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Oh, wonderful. Praise the Lord. I am so sorry, everybody. I've been trying to get logged into here. It's like my computer knew it was the weekend and decided that it was going on holiday. So I've been trying to get in here, but I'm glad that I could join you, and thank you for being here this morning. So if it's all right, I'm going to jump right in. Since we lost a few minutes here, I'd like to get right into it. Is that okay with our moderators?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. So today what we're going to be doing is talking about turning our writing into our business. And just to give you a quick background as to who I am, what I'm doing, those of you that were at my last session, I want to thank you for being brave enough to come back. And those of you that I'm now meeting for the first time, it's great to connect with you. So just to give you a little background, I've been in the marketing industry for about 10 to 15 years in various scopes, working with nonprofits, medical organizations, and hospitals. Recently, I turned my attention about the past 4 or 5 years to working with authors, and have begun to grow a business and grow a reputation in helping other authors grow in their own personal endeavors. So I'm really excited to be here with you, and I thank the Lord for that. I just want to make a quick comment here is that as we're in this time, this is actually about 25 years. I think it's on my getting close to my 25th year of being a Christian and serving the Lord. And it's just great to see how he's brought it all these years through. And as I'm here dedicating this time to you, I just wanted to take that chance to ask you to celebrate with me in that, and that great step he's brought us through. So let's jump right into this here today. As you know, the game has changed. If you've been involved in this indie work or in the author publishing work, normally if we were in a face-to-face audience, I would want to get a better feel for my audience as to how many of our indie or traditional published or both. I myself tend to prefer to go with more the indie route. I've had some things traditionally published, articles and devotions and so forth, but prefer to stick with the indie route at this time just because of the flexibility and freedom. But that being said, it is a lot of work. And if we want to make this work for us, we need to be able to adapt to this brave new indie world that we have. Basically with things such as KDP and Ingram Spark, we're seeing what we call in the business world low barriers to entry, which means that anybody can publish anything at any time. And that is great for a lot of reasons, but it also poses new challenges for us. And I firmly agree with what Bob was saying yesterday during his keynote speech, that our goal now as authors shouldn't be to get published. Our goal should be to be read. And that's where we want to continue to grow. And that's something that takes time and work over the years to continue to grow that audience. Throughout our course today, we're going to be covering the 4 main focuses, or foci is actually the proper word. We're going to talk about the right mentality, how to shift from hobby to business. And I think most of you are ready for that because you wouldn't be here if you weren't. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. We're going to talk about the right business plan, how to develop a business plan for yourself that won't stress you out, but will allow you to be productive. We're going to talk about some marketing tools and tips for writers. I'm going to share some strategies with you that we can use, that you can use to help grow your audience and your reach. And lastly, I'm going to share some quick ideas and tips for what we call guerrilla marketing or ambush marketing. So I talk pretty fast, I'll tell you that up front, and I'm sorry, especially when I'm a bit crunched for time, but I want to make sure you get what you came here for. So I have 2 things I'd like to say. Let's hold all questions towards the end. I'll try to save about 5 minutes for that purpose. And secondly, if I don't get to your question, I'm very accessible. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, JP Robinson Author at Facebook, or on my website, jprobinsonbooks.com. And I know that they're making this recording and slides available to you as well. So hopefully that between those options we'll be good to go. All right, so a lot of writers often start by saying, okay, I write maybe regularly, I write a book, so isn't that enough? Because I'm a writer, am I not automatically running a writing business because I write? And my answer is a firm no. It really is not. Many of us are kind of like this fellow over here that you might publish your book on a Kindle, or on an indie platform, Lulu, or you may have it traditionally published through a traditional publisher, or a house like my own, Logos Publications or whatever. But then the big question is, now what? Where do we go from here? What happens then? And so writing a book is not enough to start a writing career. If that's you today, I'm hoping that my presentation will help you change your story. So what we want in the end is we want to revolutionize your perspective, because once we can revolutionize your perspective, that's going to influence your actions, and that's going to help you get on the road to becoming the success or being read like you desire. So if we are starting off by, let's compare just for a minute, a hobby mentality versus a business mentality. A hobby mentality basically is someone saying, I'm writing a book. And I get this all the time. I'll meet with writers or potential writers and say, you know, I'm writing a book, but they don't have set writing hours. They don't have a clear focus. They don't have a projected end date for their novel. Whereas a person who's taking their writing as a business is committed. You've got this committed writing hours. You're working on developing your platform. You're growing your network. You're focusing on educating yourself, improving your writing, improving your skills, and making yourself more effective. And that is constant growth. I mean, my books have been praised by Publishers Weekly and different things, and I am constantly growing and constantly learning. And I kind of cringe sometimes at some of the things that I look back at some things I've written and am writing, and you know, it's like Bob said, you're not the same writer. So don't feel bad at all about growing and making changes and or whatever else. It happens. What I like to tell people is this: if you don't take your writing seriously, then why should your readers? So we want to shift over in this course, and I don't want you to be intimidated by this. It's not scary at all. It's just I want us to shift our focus from thinking I'm going to write, you know, just I want to write a book to I'm writing a book and I'm going to get this done. All right, so let's talk about a business plan. And I love to hear people pronounce this. You know, I say reach for the, I love to hear them pronounce this word, SCA. You'll hear ska, and I want sky, you know, reach for the sky. So basically the SCA model stands for strategize, conceptualize, and analyze. Those are just three words that I brought out there to try to express what I'm talking about. So when you're strategizing, if you want to create a business plan for yourself, in terms of writing, the first thing you want to do is ask yourself these questions. I'm going to share some questions with you here, and then in the next slide, I'm going to give you a template that you can take and use and customize for your own self. You can either do this with a screenshot or when you get the recording or whatever you want. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to achieve? What do you want from your writing career? Then ask, what can I realistically achieve? And you want to go through these things here. Identify a special niche or something that sets you apart. It can be anything. If you're the world's best, you know, if you're the best quilter in your community, or maybe you are you have a special niche in martial arts or teaching or whatever. If you're an educator like myself, whatever, so you have some specialty that you have, you want to identify and understand, take that niche and then adapt that to write for your target audience. So take your niche, your specialty, and then think, how can I use this to resonate with a special group of people? That group is what we call your target audience. So sit down and plan or strategize, then start to conceptualize. Set clear goals for yourself. This year or this quarter, I'm going to do such and such. Set goals for your writing, your production. When will it begin? When will it end? Focus on your formatting and all these things. Again, if you're an indie author, you have to do these things. If you are traditionally published, you don't have to probably worry about that as much. You want to grow your beta reviewers or sensitivity reviewers, those things, and start working on your pre-release marketing. You always want to start working on that well in advance. This question has come up, so I'm just going to take a second to answer this. Sometimes people want to know when to start working on pre-release marketing. If you are an indie author, I encourage you to start at least 6 months in advance, at least. Start to let people know and grow. It's never too early in my opinion, but at least 6 months. I have a release coming out this fall and I've been working on that for a while. So you always want to start working on, keep growing on that. The last step here on a business plan is analyze. The best thing to do is once a month, if you can, take like 15 minutes, an hour, whatever your schedule will allow. Again, this works around your schedule. This works for you, not against you. Look at the things, your strengths and weaknesses. What are you doing well and where do you need to grow? Do you need to diversify your reach? Do you need to diversify your pull? Are you maximizing your available resources? Sometimes writers like to beat themselves down and say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. There's so many things involved in marketing and writing. And it's true. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment, but don't let it get you stressed out. Let it work with you, not against you. Look at your marketing efforts. Have they worked out very well? What do you need to change? If something's not working out well, change it next month, change it next week. You're on your own and you have that freedom and flexibility to do this the way you desire to. How is your networking growing? Are you using resources like LinkedIn? Are you using resources and building up a connection on social media? These are things you want to think about. On this slide, as I mentioned, I'm not going to spend time on this here, but I wanted to just share this with you because this kind of gives you some starter points for how to answer the questions that I've asked you. Under conceptualize, I've tried to get you to think outside the box or outside the book in this case, and pretend you own a pizza shop and you can answer these questions to help yourself best identify what your goals are and how you can achieve those goals. Okay, so again, grab a quick screenshot of this or pick this up in the recording over here, and you'll see that you can take this and make yourself grow in ways you never thought possible. All right. So moving on, let's go from the writing piece now to the other aspects. I tell authors all the time that writing is just one cog in the machine. You can be an awesome writer, but in a market that like what we have, especially now being impacted with COVID-19, I'm very curious to see how that's going to affect the publishing industry. I do a lot of research on my end for what I do with my work. I do a lot of research and connecting with authors and different ones and wondering, and one of the things we do is look at data and predict how that's going to influence the market overall. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to impact in the next few months and coming year. But it's important more now than ever for you to realize that your writing skills are very important, but they're just one piece of the puzzle. So what I want to do in this slide is I want to introduce you to three people, three men that I've had the privilege of, two of which I've had the privilege of communicating and talking with directly, one of which I've done research on. I haven't met with him directly yet. But I want to share these stories with you because we have this kind of perception about can indie authors succeed? And I want to share with you that they can. Before I go into that, I want to make this disclaimer. The authors I'm about to share with you are not writing for the Christian audience. And I'm not here to push them in any way. I'm not endorsing them. I've never frankly read their books. They're not Christian authors, and I don't really have the time to read non-Christian authors. So if you choose to, that's up to you. But my goal in introducing these to you is to share strategies that these authors have used that I'm trusting you will find helpful and beneficial. So because they are successful, they started off and have done indie work, and I want to share their strategies with you. So I can't see your faces very well from my computer, but I normally ask people, is it clear that I'm not endorsing? If so, just shake your head or, or nod or something to let me know you're with me. But all right, so I want to do that. But before we get to those two authors, I want to swing over here to Chris Dillstrom. Chris Dillstrom is a contact of mine. He called me yesterday, I think it was late December or somewhere last year. He called me to do an interview, and he's from Harvard. With Harvard Business, editor-in-chief of Top Person magazine, and he's based out of Europe, out in the Europe area, and just a really influential businessman, a very influential fella in terms of what he's doing, and really very personable guy. So Chris contacted me, knowing I work with Logos and so forth, and we were talking about business strategies and going over some of the things that I do and so forth. And I want to share with you two quotes that Chris said that stayed with me out of our entire hour, whatever it was, conversation. First, he said, leave nothing to chance. And then second, he said, get the right fan base. They will share your message with the world. And for you as authors, I want to share that with you here today. And this, again, applies to indie or traditional authors because the same principle applies. Leave nothing to chance. Don't just assume people are going to find you. Don't just assume that they're going to like what you say. You've got to go out there and make sure that put the pieces in place to do your part. And then as a Christian author, you can step back and say, Lord, I've done all that I can do. Now the rest is in your hands. So that's the approach those thoughts I wanted to present to you today to consider as you go forward. Now let me share with you the first author I want to talk to you about, Mark Dawson. 2015, Forbes had him listing as making $450,000 on KDP, the Black Mile. Again, it's 5 years ago, this data, but if I made $450,000 in a year, I would still be talking about it and be happy about it today. So the point is, what I'm going to share this with you is he's writing for the secular audience. So his rate of return and the different things he's doing is going to be different, but I want to focus in on some strategies that he applies that you can apply in your life. First thing first, I want to share is the attitude. Mark commits to writing at least 4 hours a day. Okay, so it's the set hours we were talking about. He works on targeted public speaking, and I encourage you to get a stage somewhere. One of the best ways that an indie author or any author can grow is to win stages. And I know with COVID and all these things, a lot of physical stages are shutting down, but like you're seeing right now, more and more people are opting for online stages, which are more affordable. Even without a pandemic, we were moving in this direction. We were holding webinars. I was holding webinars. Different ones are doing things for a long time. So now with targeted public speaking, any author with your podcast or whatever, grow your online influence by getting a stage and doing targeted public speaking, even at community groups and things in your area as that grows along. He focuses on creating a content that will appeal with his audience, which is a given. And also one thing I want to emphasize, that's why it's in red, he finds creative ways to make characters real outside of the book. You see, our world right now, especially with dealing with millennials, we realize that we are in a place where everything has to be immersive. And you're dealing, again, probably no matter what you're writing, sooner or later you will encounter the millennial generation if you haven't already. And I know they're much malaligned, but one thing that I will say about the millennials is that they expect everything to be real. So you're writing, even if you're writing a memoir or whatever you're doing, you want to try to make the characters out in your book real to your audience outside the book. And that can come from writing a devotion. Let me give you a quick example. I may have this later, I'm not sure in my slide, but quick example, I write a lot of historical political fiction. So one of the things I'm working on right now is creating a devotions of an ex-spy. Because one of my characters, Layla, is a former German spy during the World War era. So my readers, followers, whatever, will be able to download this free devotion that I will have available to them that will kind of identify with challenges that she faces and they faces, and the way scripture says that they can overcome these kind of obstacles. So follow Mike's approach here on that and finding creative ways to make your characters real. Mike Omer, in 2018, he outsold J.K. Rowling, James Patterson, and Stephen King. He was the #1 Amazon bestseller 2019, according to Atlantic Magazine in 2018. And Mike is a very approachable fellow. You know, we were communicating online. I did this interview with him. And one of his greatest strengths, as he sees it, is the power of platform. He interacts with his readers daily. And I think that is a great thing for us to focus on. No matter, you know, we tend to focus on numbers when we're dealing with social media, but we really should be focusing more on engagement. You can grow your audience all you want, but if those audiences are not very much engaged or you're not writing content that sparks them, it's very difficult to get your message through. And what we have to realize on that note is that people are bombarded, as all of us know if we're on social media, we're bombarded by messages from left, right, and center. So it's hard to find the time to do what we want to do and to keep our authors in the forefront of our minds. So you want to make sure that you are engaging respectfully and nicely with your audience, fun on a pretty daily basis if possible. He advocates joining Facebook groups that are dedicated to readers, not just for promotion, but to ask questions and engage. You know, it's all about engagement outside the box. One of the things that Mike really stresses too is developing a community of readers. I kind of mentioned to this already, the difference between numbers and engagement. But the last thing I want to mention here from Mike is keeping it accessible. It really surprises me sometimes how many authors don't take the time to make their book accessible at ebook format. You want to make sure you do that. It's for a number of reasons. There's tons of data out there that shows that we want to have ebook format available. And I also recommend using Kindle Unlimited if you're a newer author, especially, because that way people can afford to take a chance on you. If you're familiar with the Kindle Unlimited program, it can be very beneficial for you. All right, last thing I want to share about Omer was getting personal, using personal pictures. You can see my picture quality of him isn't that good compared to Chris or even Mark Dawson, but Mike stresses getting personal pictures, cell phone pictures, you know, that kind of stuff. If you're comfortable with that, if you're not, you know, do what you can do and what you feel comfortable doing. All right. All right, so I want to take out of from all these authors and business leaders that we've shared today, I've created what I call the 4CM model, which basically takes the main points from all of these authors and consolidates it to 5 words. So everything that I've just shared with you on our previous slide, I'm going to share with you now in 5 words. Those words are commitment, community, conferences, and marketing. That is the 4CM model. Out of these 5 principles that I have here, I want to focus on 2 elements. One of which is marketing and the other is community. Marketing and community. Those are the 2 elements that I want to share with you and focus with you on today. And we want to learn how to grow those effectively, okay? So to that end, you may ask, well, JP, you're spending a lot of time talking to us about marketing and community. Why should I, as an indie author, focus on marketing? Why should I actually do that? Isn't that somebody else's job? Let me share this information with you. We realized that from 2003 to 2017, the Washington Post carried this article back in 2017. And again, the data is about 2 to 3 years behind, but it hasn't really changed. I'm keeping a pulse on it. It hasn't really changed that much. So over the past 14 years, we have seen a dramatic decline in readership overall. Right now, as of 2017, I should say, in America, we are looking at an average of 19% of our population is reading for personal interest on a typical day. 19% of our population. And that's not talking about the Christian market. That's talking about everybody. And yet we have approximately 1 million books going online every year, self-published, indie published, plus what the traditional market is putting out there. I don't mean to scare anyone. I definitely don't want to discourage anyone. I just want to present to you facts and you make your own judgment calls from there. Out of that 19%, Statista, which does a really good job with their data, in 2020, this year, they published their research from 2019, and they indicated that, let's go to 2017, because it's the same year, the last year from the Washington Post. As of 2017, we're looking at the average person spending about 15, 16, 17 minutes per day reading a book for pleasure during the week, and about, 19, 20 minutes maybe on the weekend per day. So we're busy. Humans are busy. There are other entertainment media out there. There's a lot going on politically, socially, all these things. So as authors and as Christian authors, we have the obligation to press ourselves forward and say, okay, we're going to take the time to market and we're going to take the time to get our work out there. So to that note, let me introduce you to my modified STP process for writers. Now, the STP process, I'm going to give a little bit of marketing jargon out here. Don't get scared. It's really not complex. I'm just going to lay out some things out there so you can have some food for thought and take this as you want to. STP is one of the ways that we look at marketing in the general market for predicting human behavior in relationship to purchases. Every business does it if they know what they're doing. And as writers, I felt that we should have a knowledge of what we're actually talking about. So that's why I've incorporated this into my presentation today. So segmentation is what the S stands for. Basically, it's saying that you recognize that your book is not for everyone. It's for a certain segment of the market that you're writing for. And this goes back to what I was telling you earlier. Who are you writing your book for? Who's your target audience, which is where we're going here in targeting. Out of that segment of the audience, of the readership of America, who are you targeting? What groups or subgroups are you targeting? Are they minorities? Are you targeting people with disabilities? Are you targeting singles, married couples? What are you targeting? Going on from there, we have positioning. How do you get your message out to the general public? How are you going to present your book to the public? And then lastly, we had the 4 Ps, which I'm actually not going to talk about. I had that before and I realized this was too much information, so I took that out. But we want to focus in today on the segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And I'm going to bring it into you as a reader. So basically, what does this mean for you as an author? I've talked about these terms. How do you take on the big questions? First of all, for segmentation and targeting, the questions you want to ask yourself before you start writing, or if you have a book that you've already written and you want to just take it up, get it more accessible, ask yourself, who is my book written for? And who do I know that can endorse or promote my book? And I also would like to add this, as I have this who here, I want to actually mention something to you. Be free to take risks. I mean, if you know us, you may not know a celebrity, but that doesn't mean you can't ship your copy of your book out to him or to her. If you are into political stuff or whatever, that doesn't mean you can't, you can dream anything and all it's going to cost you is the postage. So, it may have a great return. So you don't know. But, but in general, among your circle, among the people that can be influencers, you want to start thinking about these things early on. Moving on to more targeting, what kind of people are going to give you the best return on my investment? So if you're investing, let's say, a certain amount of your income into this, who do you know that will give you the best return on investment? What are people already talking about? I mean, if you've been following the media, following the news, you know that a lot of people are talking about a lot of things right now. So what are they talking about, and how can that message or what people are talking about be aligned with your book? How can you use that to help generate interest about what you're talking about? Finally, what literary reviewers will I submit my book to? Indie authors sometimes miss out on this last part here, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit later, but that's something you want to make sure you do. And then finally is positioning. How will I get my book in front of potential buyers? You want to consider these things. How much can I afford to spend? How can I advertise for minimal cost, etc.? What do I have? So you want to consider these 3 big questions: who, how, and what, before and during the writing phase, because it's all a part of you. The beauty of being an indie author is you have that flexibility, but you also have the responsibility of doing a lot of work that someone else might do for you. If you're traditionally published, a lot of this falls on you anyway. As you know, you have a responsibility for getting your work out there. I mean, It's you kind of got to do it. So let me give you a case study here. I'm going to show you what I had to do for Northshire, my historical fiction World War I series. And I want to share this to you just to kind of explain a little bit more what I'm talking about, but then you can take this information and make it relevant for you yourself. All right. So STP, as you know, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. You guys are now vetted. You're part of the marketing world, so that's great. You now know that you're writing for chunks of the reader market. So with that in mind, I had to think, okay, who do I basically want to read my book? Ultimately, I came out to, I want Christians, readers, women who like thrillers, parents and singles. Those are kind of the main groups that I want to look for. Out of that group, I had to decide, okay, the one that I'm really going to focus in on is basically female readers who are interested in Christian fiction because they probably are thrillers. They may like this book. And there are guy readers that like it, love it, but that's going to be my primary focus. I'm also, another part might be Christian parents who are seeking an encouraging message because that's a theme of my book. And that's what you want to think about. What themes are in your book? That's what's going to determine who your book is written for. I also thought of libraries and institutions with inspirational readership. Those are things I was thinking about. But then I need to take it a step further, like you will have to, and think, okay, out of these groups that I want to read my book, who's going to give me the best return on my investment? Who's most likely to pay what I want them to pay for my title? And don't just think about how many there are, but think the question you want to ask yourself is, who's prepared to pay what you want? Because this is business. And then can you affordably reach that group? Because one of the things I discourage authors from doing, I'm going to say is this way, is there are a lot of groups out there and it's up to you to do what you choose. But from own personal experience and things, there are a lot of people out there that will charge you thousands of dollars to do things that you could probably do yourself. It might cost you time, but you could probably do it yourself. So it just takes some thinking. And that's why I want to take this time. I hope this is helpful to you. I want to take this time to identify the key questions you need to ask yourself to help get your work out there. So for myself, thinking who will give me the best return, I said, okay, this group 1 and this group 3 are the best ones that we want to push our work to female readers in libraries, institutions. And then the biggest question is, how are they going to see your product? Now, what I want to stress to you here is that you need to think about the quality of your book. There's a lot on here. The main thing I want to focus in on is the quality. Make sure your book reflects professionalism. And as a Christian author, I want to say this: make sure everything from the formatting to the cover is the very best representation you can do of the Lord Jesus. Because really that's kind of what our book is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be our expression of love back to him. And so when you do that, on the business side of things with Logos, I've often seen books at events that I planned and things I've done for authors. I've often seen books where authors did not take the time to do your gutter or your typesetter. It looked like it was put up straight from Microsoft Word. And those are things that you actually want to avoid because you're positioning your book in front of others. So my advice, if I can say this, and I hope this doesn't come harshly, but my advice to you would be, if you are not perfectly comfortable doing your work 100% yourself, find somebody that will do it for you professionally. Because in the end, you want to have the best representation of yourself and what you believe out there in front of the public. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, your big question is, why should consumers buy from me instead of another author? Okay, so this was just a case study I wanted to share with you. Now let's talk about some strategies. And I hope I'm doing okay for time. I have about 20 minutes left, I think. So hopefully I'm okay. All right, so marketing, it all begins with a plan, right? Everything begins with a plan. So I advise you, I want to share these resources with you. You may not have thought of them, but you can do learn what people are looking for by going to Google Trends, just searching Google Trends on Google, and then seeing what people are typing and talking about in any given day. What are they talking about in reference to your book? You can get good information there. Social media, if you're on social media, you know what people are talking about, what's trending, what's going on. Community boards in your community. I once ran a very successful event for authors that was floated almost entirely just by community boards, and we had an awesome turnout and they had a great time because of just the power of using community boards, and did not cost much in terms of advertising. Cause marketing is something that you should do. Right now, you see that a lot of businesses are opting, or they all have messages out there, or not all, but many businesses have messages out there, Black Lives Matter and this, that, and the other. I'm not here to take either side. I'm not here to discuss that. My point to you is that it's what we call cause marketing. Because people are talking about something, because there is a cause out there, They want to jump on board and have something out there because they're getting their name out in front of the people. I'm not saying people don't care. That's, between every business owner and God. But my point of the matter is that it's what we call cause marketing, getting involved in a cause. For you as an author, you have the luxury of looking up local causes in your area, or maybe national causes in your area, things that are going on, and finding a way to get your work, link your work with what people are talking about and with an existing need in your community. We had a hunger strike, we had a hunger a rise in people who needed food in our area. So I started Read for a Cause. That is an example of cause marketing, where people could read my books on Kindle Unlimited, and a portion of those proceeds went to supporting our local food banks. That's called cause marketing. See the needs that are in your area. You can do good through your writing, even beyond inspiring people. You can do good by raising funds and donating portions of that back to organizations or people that are in need. Look at regional or national issues that are going on and try to connect with libraries and schools. People often ignore the power of libraries, but because they think it's free, but there are a lot of people coming to libraries, and the more that read your books in libraries are the more that get exposed to you. Also, that opens the door for partnerships where you can speak at public events that the library may or may not have. Business reading groups that are in your area. If you have a business that is in your area, you may consider opening up, donating a couple of your books, and ask them if they would have a reading club in their business niche. What you're doing is finding low-cost ways to get your name out there. And if you can target those businesses, align them up with the message of your book, now you're in a win-win situation. Community art groups, communities all over America have art groups and things that are in there, so you can find the time if you can find the time and make a connection with supporting an art group in your area, that's also another great opportunity to connect with the public. Okay, so that's basically what cause marketing, how I would like to align that for you as authors. Going on to our third and final segment here of marketing on this page, we have B2B marketing, which is business to business or business to people marketing, B2P. Think beyond your book. A lot of times authors say, well, I want to write a book, and that's how they grow their name. Don't ignore the power of devotions. Don't ignore the power of professional writing, writing in journals, writing for newspapers, writing in devotionals. Whether you get paid or not, your name is getting out there, and you're starting to develop that byline that Bob talked about yesterday. You have downloadables, free things that you're making accessible to your audience and to your public, because everybody loves free, especially now. And I love free too. I love free. So we like free things that are out there. So you want to have downloadables and things accessible to you. Share personal stories and milestones when you're talking to people, and use them as a way of connecting with others. Use them as a way of connecting with readers and with businesses and organizations if possible. I want to encourage you. I know this scared me the first time I had to do it, going live. I mean, I was like, what do you mean I'm going live? But I did it, and I throughout the years, I've begun to really encourage people to go live on a regular basis. It just simply draws more people to your page, gets them more active on social media, Facebook or YouTube, and gets talking. Positive truth is something I just started. In the world of negativity, you want to have a positive message out there. And as Christians, we have a positive message to share with the world. So get out there and talk about it. And if you can link it back to your book, so much the better. But do it in a way that people don't feel like they're being marketed to. They don't really like that anymore. All right, so last thing I want to talk to you about on this segment for marketing strategies is get professional reviews. I'm not going to read this to you. They're just up there for me to share with you show you what I'm talking about, right? Indie authors in particular often ignore the power of professional reviews by organizations like Publishers Weekly, the American Journal Association, and these different organizations that are out there. Sometimes they think that it doesn't have much of a return, and it really does. I don't believe in paying for reviews. Some people are okay with that. That's a personal choice. If you're okay with that, that's up to you. There's nothing wrong, illegal about it. But I don't believe in doing that. So what I do believe and encourage authors to do is to send your book to every organization that you can, that you think might be relevant or might enjoy reading your book. Follow them. Start early in the process, because many have specific timeline guides that you have to follow, but get it out there, because once you get a professional organization backing you or saying something good about what you have to write, you're now opening the door for libraries nationwide to carry your titles. You are clearing obstacles out of the way for bookstores and other groups and even other readers in the public to pick up your title. The professional reviews are more geared for the professional industry. They're more geared for the libraries, as I said, and these other reading things, but that's business. That's business. And the trickle down effect is that it can come back around and help you. If they ignore you or if you don't get a review, because these organizations are very selective, as you know, that doesn't mean you give up. You revamp your writing, you improve your writing, you try another organization, you write another book, you get better, we're all growing, and you submit it again. Most traditional houses submit their books to industry leaders as well. So it's just important for you, if you are an indie author, to make sure you're doing that, and or else, because you could be missing out on praise that you're worthy of, and praise that your work is worthy of. So keep that in mind. All right, build a community of readers. So we talked a lot about marketing. I want to swing over to community and to share some strategies that anyone can do to build a community of readers, which will ultimately turn around and help you set up a writing system that pays. All right, so building a community of readers, one of the first things you want to do is focus on your blogging. Have focused blogging. When you're blogging, you want to share things about your experiences in life, whatever your blog is about, but you also want to talk about a manuscript you're working on. People like to be involved in the process. They really do. So keep your blog focused. Don't write about a bunch of different things on the same blog. Keep it focused around a general theme. You can have sub-themes in there, but you want to have a general theme that your audience can know what to expect. Social media, if someone reaches out to you, respond. It may take you a little bit, but make sure you respond to everyone. If it's a negative comment, don't lash back. You know, someone says something bad about one of your books. To me, you haven't been an author unless you've had a critical review, so that's just part of the learning experience. But you know what? Just be calm, take care of it, just move on. It's okay. The review does not define you. Just remember that. You want to follow others, welcome people that are on board, new to your social media family, advertise and so forth as well, just to keep engaged and show that you're a relatable person. Because the truth is, authors are often viewed as, whoa, but you want to show that connectivity. Like, I'm just like you, that kind of a feel. All right, so when you get readers and you get fans, engage them and use them. Chris Dillstrom, the one I had mentioned before, his basic principle is that he only shares information with 1% of his fans. Those privileged few, quote unquote, are the ones that take it out and share it with the world. And so you may not be at a point to do that yet, but what you want to do is continue to grow that fan base and share with your fans first, and then take it on from there. And I think I remember being at a presentation, and Hannah, I'm not sure if she's in this course today, but Hannah Conway had actually mentioned that too at there was a workshop down in Virginia, and they had mentioned that and it's a great strategy that businesses use all the time. So good job. You also want to creatively let readers interact with your characters. Let them suggest sometimes names, ideas of the plot, depending on how comfortable you are with sharing on certain things. If you are a nonfiction writer, you also can solicit reader input about situations, just asking, how do you feel about the X, Y, and Z situation? How did you feel about such and such? Take their perspectives into consideration. Maybe you'll end up bringing in a better product as a result of it. Obviously, growing email lists. Email is not as effective as it used to be because we're all getting, a million emails a day, but it still is something to grow and something to consider and, not to ignore. Public events, I had already talked about this, so I'm going to gloss over it, but I do want to encourage you as an author to join groups, physical or virtual clubs beyond Facebook. Try to get involved with more personal aspects, because with Facebook groups, it tends to get a lot of people in there. They're great, they're good, but you also want to have clubs or groups that you can interact with and find resources and people to connect with you about. Community events such as fairs and so forth, once this pandemic clears up, whatever, those are definitely things that you want to be involved in. Anywhere you can get into the public to connect or to present yourself and let people learn and hear about your name. All right. Last thing I want to talk about is collaboration. We're all in this together. I know you've heard that in a lot of different ways, and I don't mean in a pandemic. I mean the writing world, especially Christian authors. We're all in this together, and we need to understand that by supporting one another, everyone wins. Support other authors in your genre. Bring them on. If you were in my presentation yesterday, you know that I collaborated with three other authors and push their work. I think they did a great job and do great work, so I want to share it with you. By supporting other authors, we all grow, and I think that's the heart of Christianity in itself. We also want to invite people for guest blogs, to do guest blog posts, share information with others and about others together in that end. All right. Now, I've talked about a lot of different things here and given you a lot of strategies, and I know it may seem overwhelming. I've constantly heard from authors, not just from when teaching, but in general, that they never have enough time to do their marketing. And that's common. We all face that. Sometimes it seems like the marketing overwhelms our writing time. and that is true. But that's why I'm going to share with you this timeline. What I advise everyone to do is that for the year, take a goal that you have for the year, be it marketing or be it community. Okay, so let's focus for this timeline for information purposes. Let's focus on building a community of writers, right? We want to build a community of readers. So what you want to do is plan out your year. So let's look at 2021, right? 2021, quarter one starts, and your whole goal is for quarter one is focused blogging. What you're doing is you're going to set a specific goal for yourself. Do I want more followers or do I want more engagement? You decide. It's up to you. Once you do that, start making sure your content includes keywords that people are searching for on Google. And I know that may seem strange. You might think, well, it's my blog. I just want to write what I feel. That's true. You can write what you feel, but you'll get more traffic to your site if what you're writing about what you feel includes keywords that people are already searching for. So again, Google Trends can be your best friend. So you have to decide, make sure your content includes keywords. Make sure your content, as I said, focused, is exclusive to your blog. Have different blogs for different foci as well. So if you are like me, I like to do parent stuff, devotions, marriage stuff, this, that. So I've got different sites for different things in my life. I don't believe in downtime, in case you can't tell. Quarter two, you want to engage your readers. So you're growing for quarter one, you're just focusing on your blog. Quarter two, you're focusing on your readers. Pick one or two of these things I have up here and try it out. If, as you're going along, you realize that these are not working or it's not having the impact you want, switch out and try something different. You are a business of one. So you've got the flexibility to do what you want to do, contrary to big corporations. They may have more money, but it takes them a long time to make decisions. You are your own master, so you can do it, in that aspect. Quarter three, focus on social media. So if you're growing your social media platform, again, decide, do I want to grow followers or do I want to grow conversions? Conversions mean getting people from your website or social media platform to your website for sales, basically resulting in sales. So which platform are you going to focus on? Don't do all. Focus on Twitter or Facebook, or whatever you're working on, Instagram. But don't let it, don't go crazy. I got to do this, that, the other. Focus on one. Success begins with focus. Okay, great. Quarter four of 2021, you can focus on public events. Hopefully we can have them. So if you're having maybe one event per month, you can have it online. You can go outside the author box and get to hospitals or community centers, charities, whatever else that are non-author related, because you're part of a world, you're part of a bigger picture. So keep that in mind. And finally, as you go into quarter one of 2022, you start planning for collaboration. Work on LinkedIn, identify good connections. I made some awesome connections. I mean, from the CIA to different ones, LinkedIn's a great place, and authors often ignore it. I mean, they're just awesome people out there to get to know. So set something up to collaborate and work with and whatever else, and you can go from there. All right, let's take a break. A visual break. I want to introduce you to the concept of guerrilla marketing. And by guerrilla marketing, I don't mean the monkey gorilla kind of thing. I mean guerrilla marketing, ambush marketing, which is unexpected ways of presenting a short, clear, kind of funny message to your audience, and then you make it disappear. That's what ambush or guerrilla marketing is. How can you as an author do this? Well, you need to first recognize that opportunity is knocking all around you. On a local level, you have opportunity to do short, quick bursts that don't cost much or are free. We love free. By following these things over here: writing groups, fairs, book launch parties, etc. Going beyond the local, going to the regional side, there are always things that are going on. 5Ks, there are billboards out there. I did a billboard ad once I did a billboard ad once, I think it was 2019. Yeah, that thing went viral. It wasn't that billboard that was so impressive. It was the picture of the billboards that I took, because it was unexpected and posted on social media, and it went all over. It was great. So what I'm trying to show you is that you may not be at the point of doing a billboard, but you can do something like maybe a pet stand store or something else. And the point is, it's just things that are different. That's what people want to see. We don't want to see tailored, professional looking pictures. We want to see things that we don't normally see anymore. And that's what gets us curious. That's what gets us talking. No one likes to be advertised to, right? Right. So just think, what can I do that's different? Take a picture of it, use it, push it out there, and it may well go regional. Radio, television appearances, if you can get on there, awesome. If you're not at that point or not, whatever, just keep growing. Do what you can. And everything, there's an opportunity somewhere. Just look for it and listen to its call. On a global aspect, you can do online advertising. People often ask about this. It is there. You know, it's there for a reason, but it's becoming very, very ineffective. And as time goes along, I think that's just going to continue, because we're deliberately, our studies are now showing us that internet users are deliberately turning away from online advertising. We're ignoring the ads. So yet it costs a premium price. So, you know, there are things like international book fairs. I have never participated in this. I have been contacted about them. I've heard good reports about some of these groups. But again, you know, that's not something I'm endorsing. I'm just making you aware that these things do exist. One thing I do endorse is guest blog appearances. Those are great to get, you know, those are great. And I think those are great to do. All right, so a recap is worth 10,000 words. So let me leave you with a few final words. And I see we have, it looks like we have like 85 comments. So I want to take those questions in whatever time remains. What we covered today is, today we learned why you need to mean business while you write. We learned how to develop an effective business plan, SCA and 4CM model I shared with you. We learned how to talk about marketing your book using standard marketing jargon, the STP process, strategize, the STP process: segmentation, targeting, and positioning your offer. I mentioned the 4 Ps, but decided not to go into it. If you want more information on that, just reach out and I'll be happy to chat with you about it. Ambush marketing was what we talked about. And that's the essence of what I have for you. For myself, just so you know, I've got a couple of releases coming up, and I'm excited. If you have any input or anything you want to share, whatever, I'm always open to talking with you in any way that I can. I'm going to pause here and turn it over to to our questions. So I don't know how we want to do that.
That's great, JP. Thank you all so much. I feel like my head is going to explode from all this great information. So I've been monitoring the chat for questions, and I've got some that we're going to pull up first. We had an internal discussion in our chat about beta reviewers, and Sherry first asked, what is a beta reviewer? And several, folks chimed in about giving your manuscript feedback and asking your opinions. JP, would you like to kind of expand on what's your view of a beta reviewer?
Thank you so much for asking. That's a great question. My view of a beta reviewer is this: have some, don't have too many. The good thing about a beta reviewer is that they can honestly give you good feedback about things in your plot that you may or may not have noticed. And I think it's valid to have them out there. You can maybe get some people, if they really like it, they might be out there to give good reviews in advance of your release. That's a possibility. I know that a large number of publishing houses do incorporate beta reviewers to a certain extent. The bad side about beta reviewers when you're in the writing process is that you can lose sight of your own voice. And I think that as an author, you have to make that decision as to who you're going to listen to and who you're not going to listen to. Mm-hmm. No one's going to like everything you write, and it's your book, not theirs. So you need to be careful not to take what they say too much to heart. I would listen to beta reviewers if they are pointing out things that are major errors in your plot, or things you haven't thought of. And I've seen things like that happen to mine. And that's why I'm grateful for beta reviewers, people that can catch things like that as a sounding board. But in terms of changing my overall message, or in terms of adjusting what I am trying to get out to the public, no. I think that's what makes it my book.
Gotcha, awesome. So the next discussion that we had in our chat was about the best places to get professional reviews. And is this something that we should include in our book proposals?
Your book proposals to agents and so forth, to agents and to publishing houses. Well, I think if you have first of all, the best places to get reviews is, I would say, for a professional, I would definitely tell you, number one, it depends what you're writing and who you're writing for. There are certain professional houses and industry leaders that are geared towards specific topics. I think it's, I forget the names of some of them now, but I know that some of them are geared more for children and young adult literature. Some are more geared for fiction overall. It doesn't really matter, nonfiction, etc. So depending on what you want to write, you want to sit down and do a little bit of online research to find out which industry leader is probably the best choice for you to submit your book to. Once you do that, and if you obtain one, it takes a long time. Especially if you're going the free route, it takes a long time. They have the option to say no. But once you do get one, yes, I would definitely mention that to, when you're in your book proposal, include that in there, because you're already establishing your credibility. Nothing is ever guaranteed in the writing world, but you're definitely turning the odds in your favor.
Great, awesome, thank you so much. All right, so we moved on to guest blogging. A lot of our users are really excited about that. Can you share with us some of the best practices for asking to guest blog on someone's platform and inviting someone to post on yours?
I definitely appreciate that question. It's a great one. What I would suggest is that, first of all, you'd spend some time looking at blogs and obviously follow the blog of the person that you're interested in approaching. I wouldn't do it right away, follow today and then ask tomorrow. I would let some time go by, follow, comment on their posts and make sure it's someone you genuinely like. Don't be a hypocrite. Make sure it's someone that you genuinely like, you're interested in their material, because I found that in the writing world, sincerity and honesty are really the best approaches. That's the real goal of this whole thing, is building relationships. So you connect, you comment. I'm a historical fiction, political fiction author. So I would find people that are in similar genre to mine. I'm very selective as to who I follow, but I might follow one of theirs if I feel it's something that I really am interested in. And then turn around and over time say, hey, you're writing in such and such and such. I am as well. Would you be interested in having me speak on your blog about such and such a topic? So best practices would include developing a relationship. Secondly, making a proposal about a specific topic. Wait and see what that person says. You may in turn also offer to have that person come back and do something on yours. So it's collaborative, going back and forth. Outside of the virtual setting, when you meet people in online and face-to-face interactions, such as a conference like this when it's physical, or even if you're connecting online, when you have that direct one-on-one contact, it also sets the stage for a collaborative relationship. Now you know someone, now they know you, and you can take that message with you, and everyone benefits.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you, JP. So Regina wants to know, and this is very important for a lot of us that, we're starting out our business plan as far as, setting up our writing in quarters. Am I trying to create enough content in quarter one for my blog to be on autopilot for the following quarters?
You know what? I would actually not suggest that. I think people do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that what happens is, if you're trying to keep the pulse on what's going on in society, we can't predict what tomorrow's going to hold. So I think that if we start planning out a year for, in quarter one, for 2 and 3 and 4, things can change so much. You can miss trending issues or miss things that people are talking about. And you in your own personal experience may grow and have a different perspective than what you would have wished to share with the world 5 months down the road. So I would definitely suggest try to keep it within that same quarter, which is 3 months worth of blog posts. That's a good significant amount. When you get down to like maybe month 2 or halfway or 3/4 of the way through that, if you want to start scheduling ahead for the next quarter, that's fine. Just keep in mind that things may change, and so you need to be prepared to be flexible. But I would not do it for the whole year.
Great, awesome. So Leah would like to know, how is LinkedIn a tool for authors? This might be new for some of us. Can you kind of expand on that?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is awesome because of the connections it provides. While I realize that you have to be careful with who and what you're connecting with online and take some things with a grain of salt, it provides a landing page for you to make interactions with people who can become positive influences for your book, or collaborators for your book, or people who can be genuinely good beta readers, etc., depending on what their interest and their expertise is. I've advocated LinkedIn, and it's not an uncommon question. It's, again, something that people don't often think about. But I actually began using LinkedIn for research because I've been working on, as I said, political fiction. I began working on it in a new field, a YA, young adults slant. And I needed some work with people, to connect with people who worked with intelligence. And so to that end, I began to do some research and came across and made some contacts and connections. And then, you do your research outside of LinkedIn to make sure you're speaking to legitimate people, etc. But, that was one great way that I was able to connect with someone who was formerly part of a State Department, to put it that way. So one of the great ways that I would say you can use LinkedIn to your advantage, or anyone can use LinkedIn to their advantage, is to simply look at what do you need? What are you trying to find? Are there ways that you can build a partnership or a relationship, a business relationship? I found people that are actually movie makers online that are interested in working with some of my titles or whatever else like that, and that have their own studios. But because of the LinkedIn presence, we're both on LinkedIn. That is the way that we can connect through LinkedIn and other mediums like that as well. So don't ignore it as a professional tool, especially in the area of collaboration. The opportunities are endless.
Great. So some of our attendees were a little confused. We wanted to have a little clarification. Are you a Downton Abbey fan? We noticed Highclere Castle on your book.
You know what? No, I'm not. That's up to every person that is. I'm familiar with the story. I've seen it. You know, I'm not a TV person, but I did see it because I'm a World War One. I'm writing a lot about World War One, and that era obviously is this is the same time and era. My cover designer felt that that would be but he's based in the UK, so so I felt it would be a good thing. And in all honesty, when I saw the castle itself, I thought, that's what I'm writing about. Like I saw the building, and you know, as an author, you know, like you just see things, you know, and it's like, that's it. That's Northshire. You know, they might call it Highclere or whatever, but for me, it's Northshire. But yeah, I have capitalized on that for marketing. I've done quick trivia, you know, questions like, hey, does anybody know what castle this is? Anyone know whatever else like that? But personally, I'm not really too much. I'm not a TV person.
Gotcha. We all found that to be awesome. So one thing I did want to point out to our attendees today is that JP actually has a new book that's come out, and it's in his Workshop in Your Pocket series. It's called Write 3D, and it's been released to critical acclaim, just as he's been telling you guys in this presentation. Publishers Weekly added, this should be a hit with fans of inspirational historical. So you can find more about JP and all of the published pieces he's had. You can connect with him on his website, and that's jprobinsonbooks.com. So does anybody have any final questions before we wrap up? We've got about a minute left.
I do, if you can hear me.
Sure, go ahead, Joe.
I can't get my video to come back.
No trouble.
I posted in the comments, one of the things I think that sometimes are overlooked, because I run one, is our book clubs. And I run Yahweh Sisterhood Book Club, and I actually videotape on Zoom authors every month, 1 or 2 a month. And they're up on YouTube. And I have to tell you that we get a great support on Facebook as well. I just interviewed the Jean and Carol Kent and David and Cindy Lambert on their new book, Staying Power. And there's like I think there's about 1,300 views alone of that video. I think it's a great tool to use for authors.
Joe, I thank you for sharing. I think that's actually definitely a very valid point to bring out. I definitely thank you for bringing that to the awareness of our authors. Great point.
Awesome. Are there any final questions for JP?
I have a quick question.
All right, go ahead, Heather.
You mentioned talking about the current things that are going on and all of that in social media, and making that part of what you present in your own social media and talk about. But I've seen in our current situations with the 2 or 3 biggest things going on right now, that I've heard authors that have been told, I'm never reading your book again because you're not speaking up on things. And on the other side, I've seen authors post things that aren't overly polarized either direction, but then the readers that are commenting are hijacking it into this very combative place, this very negative place. And so how do you speak to those things without running into these negative consequences that I'm a Christian writer. I don't want any of my social media to be a place for that.
I know, Heather, you know, I think that is, I want to thank you really from my heart for bringing that up, because that brings a great avenue for me to add on to what I was saying before. First of all, I think the real problem is just the climate of our country and the kind of world that we live in. The world without Christ is a chaotic world. But to answer your question, what authors have to do is you have to be very wise, very, very wise, more now than ever before. For me personally, while I advocate speaking about social issues, I am very careful about what I will say on the public sphere. On Twitter, it might be a little different, but on my public sphere, like in my Facebook page, which interacts directly with my readers, I'm very careful. I have not, for example, just to be honest, I have not said anything on my Facebook page right now about the social unrest or civil unrest and things like that are going on. Number one, my own perspectives might be different than a lot of people's on that aspect, but number two, I think that as you said, I'm a Christian author, and that's really not the focus of it. Now, what I will do, however, is I will post information and positive things that allude to those events or allude to those situations that are going on, but will direct people in a positive way. For example, yesterday was Juneteenth, right? So
JP, I'm sorry to interrupt. We are 7 minutes over, and we have to start the next class.
Okay.
Be continued.
Message me. Message me on Facebook.
I hate to cut you all off. I appreciate the interaction, but we have to start the next session, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you all so much for coming. And again, go to JP Robinson.
My pleasure. Take care. God bless.
Mhm.